Okay, so for the hatching, I'm going to use complementary colors. So I'm going to use yellows. I'm also going to grab the yellow ochre because it's kind of a dulled out darker yellow. Then I'm going to use the violet. And then to darken the violet of the Pastel set, I'm actually going to grab the Prussian blue because I find that it's not very dark, this violet. And so for the lines, you can just do lines like you did just the dots, where you just place them very strategically next to each other and layer them. But I find for hair, most of the time you need to put down some base values first and then put the texture on top. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, where I just kind of lightly put in a base layer. This is very similar to what we were doing with the smooth blending. So I do gradual transitions, always layering these colors on top of each other. So I put the yellow on top of the white, then I'm going to overlay a little bit of the chrome on top of the lemon, then the ochre on top of the chrome. I'm going to stop the chrome almost towards the edge because on the very end I'm going to put the violet and put a little bit of that blue with the violet, and of course if I mix blue and yellow together I'm going to get green. So I want to keep that blue only on the edge by itself. So I can kind of go in here and create a gradual transition if I want to. Maybe I need to ease up on the pressure here a little bit. There we go. So that we can make it a little bit more of a base. Then on top of that, what I'm going to go ahead and do is put some lines. So on this handout, I'm just going to go ahead and do it where they're vertical lines. And so I'm going to place a second color so that I can get the texture. I'm going to have it go across here. You can see it's a lot faster than what we were doing with the stipple. So I'm just going to keep layering this, right? And I can put space between them. I can also press harder to get the value to be darker. But I want to make it so that once again I've covered up. Oop, I did what I said not to do. Put that blue in the plate with the yellow. Right? So I can leave this really far apart and very separated and like distinct, but I could also, if I wanted to, kind of layer it and soften up this texture, and it depends on, once again, the detail that you're working on and what you see, where you see it. And I can layer these colors on top of each other so that I can get more gradual transitions. Right? So then on this one, I can do that same sort of technique of doing the base value. So I could do that light transitions of value. Right? I like to shade with the contours. Now to save a little bit of time, I'm going to do this really quickly because I'm at my school and the bell is going to ring. But I would probably blend this in a little bit more carefully. I'd probably make it a little bit more thick, probably make it more gradual. Right. Let me see if I can overlap these colors just a little bit more so they're not so separate. Okay, but then on top of this, this is where I'm actually going to start to place a little bit more of that texture. And so with your hair, you're going to be looking at your photo or yourself in order to do this, looking at like where the hair bends with the contours of your head and where it comes out from the part and so on. But for this one, I'm going to go ahead and use kind of like a little snowflake star in the center, so a cross and then an X, and then I'm going to use lines kind of coming out from there, kind of radiating like you would see longitudinal and latitudinal lines. I like to draw, a sphere and then like a beach ball, right? To think about how we would bend the lines according to that direction so that it looks more 3D. And so I'm going to go ahead and draw lines that are bending to the left and then more straight, and then bending to the right to kind of give this form. And I'm always going to use little lines to separate, to show volume, I should say. And I'm going to keep layering this until it's more filled in. Now, I have to be real careful with these shadows, that I change them the right direction, and I can mix some of them up and in. So I'm going to keep filling this in until all that gray paper is no longer showing, I should say. And just like with the stipple, the more I go over this, the smoother it will be. So I really want to make sure that if it is supposed to be texture, that I really pay attention to where that detail is, where that texture is in my image. And if I have to go back in and add more texture, I can do that.